Well, Benji, welcome into the big
Double
1-0, double digits.
Love it, man. We got our first guest on with us today. Really excited, man.
Yes,
This is
we're
really
excited,
cool. Really
man.
Cool.
We're just excited. Before we introduce him to you guys, before we jump into that, this will be episode 10. We're going to be talking a little bit about culture and impact today. I'm a little pumped. We talked about this a lot with our team this week. You know, we had a big, what we call really dream building. You guys have heard us talk a little bit about it, but we get to meet with all of our teams from Dallas and Houston and our Birmingham team. And man, we talked about just culture and impact and why that's important. I got some cool stuff today that we're going to talk about. We're going to look, but right before we started recording, I saw a post we're going to talk a bit about it is Dion Sanders doesn't care about having culture and thinks they can win without it. So I'll be interested to hear y'all's take on that.
I can't wait to talk about that.
I was going to say, don't jump into it yet. We're going to be good. So we're going to jump into that. So you guys know, I do want to apologize. Benji and I know we normally do every other Thursday. It's been kind of busy, and I feel like we say that every time, so I apologize. But we're back on it. This will be a special early release. I guess, well, I don't know if it's really early or considered late, but it's in between the week when we normally wouldn't release one. So, but without further ado, I'm excited to introduce, look, this guy is a brother from another mother for me.
Oh, yeah.
He's one of the first people I think I met when I got to visit SERVPRO headquarters. Roy is working there right now. But Roy Adcock, I'm going to introduce you. You know what, Roy? I'm even going to give you a special.
Oh, the fan
Look at that.
club.
Man.
Look at that.
Man.
Yeah.
It can go for 30 seconds.
No, look. You're trying to make my ego match my waistline, so you really need to tone it back some, Adam, okay?
That was great. That was good.
For those of you that aren't watching but you're listening, Roy is about $1.95.
Yeah, back in fifth grade.
Good looking dude. Good looking. But no, Roy's a good friend of our team. I've known you probably for about 5 years now. Benji probably a lot longer.
Oh yeah.
So as long as I've been there, but we've been really good friends. We were excited when we were like, you know what, 10th episode, Benji kept pushing, hey, let's get a guest. And I said, you know what? Let's get to number 10 and then we'll have a guest. And I told him, I said, I want Roy to be our first one. So Roy, I'm excited you're here, man.
I'm honored. Thank you guys so much. It's an honor and a privilege. I mean, Benji, you know I respect the heck out of you, man, and everything you do. And Adam being your shadow and all, and, you know, getting to bond with Adam over the past several years, getting to know not just his talents in the workspace, but also getting to know him as a man and a brother,
for sure.
Reflecting the kind of people that you guys bring in to your corporate family that you guys have. I mean, it's just kudos to you and what you've built. And
he knows this. We tell we're very blessed to have Adam too, but we're very blessed to know you too, Roy. And you know, it's awesome to have men of faith around us, and you know, just to have the bond. We get things done together. We work together. We have some fun together on the side too, so it's kind of nice.
Oh yeah,
but, man, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it was fun, man. I think
honor.
Roy, one of the first times that we really met was when was it this God, I'm trying to think back. It was when convention was online, right? COVID year?
It was our COVID convention.
Oh, wow.
COVID convention.
Yeah, I mean, everybody was telling me. They were like, hey, we got this guy coming up. He's going to help us out some, take a lot of photos. His name's Adam West. And I'm like, why are we bringing Batman?
If it came from Mark and Bo, it's 100% a lie.
Well, I mean, I didn't know why we were bringing the old Batman. That's the only thing in my mind. I was like, everybody knows Superman's cooler.
Well, it was funny because when we came up there, you guys had everything on lock. Really, we were wanting to start doing something similar. We wanted to start streaming. We were going to start streaming training classes. We knew that we were going to have to start streaming with our other franchises. And so Benji's like, look, go and learn everything you can in like 4 days time. And
you
didn't really
crash course.
Course. And I didn't really have a role when I came. Really, you know, you guys had everything on lock, and I just became this weird new guy that was taking random pictures of everything.
Hey, you took some of the best photos I've ever seen of myself. Okay?
Your picture, that picture I took of you where you're sitting on that stool doing the mean tweets, whatever it is you did, it's still, when you call me, it's still what I see.
Well, I had so many people. I think I even put that up as my Facebook picture for a while. And somebody was like, "Hey, are you running for office? Why are you so serious?" Like all these different things. And I'm like, Adam took this photo, and apparently he does glamour shots because you made me look better than I am. So
you were not a colossal disappointment during that, sir.
I wish I want to get that where I can play it back like every day. That's an encouragement piece right there.
It's a joke to our listeners, but so hey, I said, we're going to jump in today and talk about culture and impact. Roy very much lives that with what you guys do at SERVPRO headquarters. You as an individual as well. I know you're a culture guy. I know you're going to share a little bit. You got a cool story. Funny enough, Roy left us for, what was it, 60 days? And then
67 days.
He's got it down, man.
Look, when you are in that toxic of a culture,
you came back quick.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I remember you called me and told me that you had gotten a position. It was a big position, and I was like, God, man, when you called and told me you were going to be leaving, felt like a part of me was being ripped out. I was going to miss you.
Yeah.
And then I kid you not, man, like I think a month or so had gone by, and we had text like, how's the new job? Like, kind of a little bit back and forth. And then you called me what felt like a month later. And you're like, hey man, so I'm coming back.
I'll never forget. We were at the First Responder Bowl in Dallas. Sarah and I went, and Roy was there with Chris and Chad. And by the way, if you haven't tuned into the First Responder Bowl, really cool thing.
Oh yeah,
that SERVPRO puts on.
The man you are hearing from does all of it.
Yes, I'm privileged
to. He puts it together.
He does.
Yes,
he does. Yes. But we got to talk to him, and I told him, I said, Roy, how you doing, man? He said, well, I'm leaving. I said, yeah, Adam told me. Go on, whatever.
Yeah.
Now we were, and honestly, we were happy for you. We were happy that you had the opportunity ahead of you, and such. We were sad that you were leaving.
Yeah.
And then the good thing is, I assume that he as you heard, he didn't like the culture there. He called back, and his position was still open because it hadn't been gone long enough.
And I'll tell you this whole thing, I don't know how to put it other than it being a God thing. And I'll give the listeners just a quick overview. I'd been with SERVPRO for 14 years. Mm-hmm. So like I'm indoctrinated to the company. I mean, I technically bleed green and orange at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the lessons that I've learned in my life, it's when you're not looking for anything is when stuff can happen.
Yeah.
Like when I met my wife, I wasn't looking to date any girls. I had gotten out of a bad relationship a long time before that, and boom, it just happened. So I had this company approach me on LinkedIn. They sent me this message, and I'm like, it's spam or whatever. Somehow they got my cell phone number. They reached out to me. We had the conversations, and everything just sort of, fell into place. And I went in for an interview because I'm like, what will interview hurt? It'll help me maybe grow and just get a little bit of experience in that field. Yep. So I did that, and then silence for 3 weeks. And this guy calls me, and he's like, hey, I'm so-and-so with the company. And I'm like, who? And he was even offended, like, you don't know who I am? And I was as polite as possible.
Sir.
I was as polite as possible. And I was like, man, I'm sorry. Look, it's been 3 weeks. I didn't hear anything. I wrote you off. And I said, to be honest, I'm in a hotel in Omaha right now doing training,
Yeah.
So they said, well, look, you impressed us, yada, yada, yada. We'd really like to hire you on as our marketing manager. And I'm like, okay. And, he gave me the salary information, all the benefit information, all that kind of stuff over the phone. And I said, well, sir, I appreciate it. If you would just email it over to me so I can just take a look at it tomorrow. Like I said, traveling, I'm in the middle of stuff. Next day, I opened up my email. The title had changed to Director of Marketing, and the salary had increased by another 30%. And I'm whoa, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I even called their HR department. I said, I think you guys might have sent me the wrong offer letter. And they were like, no, we took a step back, and we were like, the responsibilities for the role and all this sort of stuff, we felt like this was the appropriate title and compensation. And at that point, I was like, I need to call my wife.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We had to have that conversation, and I didn't know what to do. I wasn't looking. I was semi-content where I was at. 14 years, you can get in a rut, but whatever. And so with the support of my wife and family, they were like, give it a shot. See what happens. This doesn't happen every day. So I did. And that's when Adam cried when I called him. But it's okay.
Because remember, because also in that same moment, now Benji knows about it. I had this conversation finally one day in his office. I fessed up to it. But I had and just so you know, I don't know if I told you, Benji, but Roy was the only person that knew. But I was going, remember I was looking at doing something different. Like I was like, I wanted to create and do more with video and photography. And Roy was, when you called and told me, we both were kind of in that same position.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so, yeah, it was because mine didn't work out. And I'm like, well, dang, now he's leaving me.
Well, I mean, and I left, and just to sum it up real quick, a bunch of red flags started going off. And for me, I was like, okay, 14 years at one company, I'm just still used to that. I'm just getting adjusted to the change. My wife can attest. I'm not a fan of change for the most part. But the red flags started getting a little bit bigger, a little bit more prominent. And I noticed that it wasn't just me, but it was actually my whole team at that company started to have that mentality. And everything that we tried to do and overcome was just getting shot down by higher ups. And then one day I had a higher up come in. We were being as cordial and as professional as possible, asked how we were doing great. Hey, by the way, did we get that report I asked him if we gotten a report from this other company that we were using. He said, oh yeah, I got it last night, sent it off to the CEO. Everything's good. I said, that's great. Do you mind if we get a copy of it? Because we need it for a project we're working on. And he turned around, raised his voice, and proceeded to berate me in front of the entire department to the point that two other departments in the upstairs of the building heard it. And then he just sort of stormed out. And one of my team members, she got up and she shut the door to our department. She goes, you okay? I'm like, yeah, I think so. Kind of doing a slow burn right now, And I had a young girl.
You're in shock at this
point.
I
was. And we had a graphic designer girl. She's way better than Adam, by the way. But anyway, graphic designer
I'm
girl.
not a graphic designer. I'm okay
He'll say he's not.
No, she's like, how did you not punch him in the face? And I just said, it's not worth it. It's really not. And, I told them, I said, you guys go take a lunch. And I just started getting on my phone just to sort of, get my mind out of it or whatever.
Decompress.
And no joke, about that time, all of a sudden, I started getting emails. It was LinkedIn communication, and it was actually the HR director and recruiters from SERVPRO. Same day. They're like, hey, how's that new job going? You interested in coming back maybe? And I was like, well.
You didn't tell me that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I was like, well, do you have time for a phone call? And so I called him, and, we started talking, and I admitted, I'm a man that will admit when he's messed up or whatever, made the wrong choice. And I said, look, I never should have left. Hindsight's 20/20, grass isn't always greener, whatever kind of other phrase you want to throw out. And I said, I don't know what is open or what's available, but, I'm willing to, do what I can to come back. And that's when she was like, well, your old job is still open. And I was like, really?
How about
she
that?
said, yeah. And just the team of people that literally surrounded me at that point from SERVPRO, that's when I knew I was gone 67 days because that's what she had told me. And there's certain, requirements you have to do as far as background checks and like drug tests and all that kind of stuff. So it's like I had to go through that whole process again.
I thought you were going to tell me it had been so quick you didn't have to.
No.
Well,
that would have been 66 days.
I was a day late and $1 short. Yeah. But no, it surprised me on how quickly things just literally fell into place. Now, I know they didn't fall into place.
Right.
I know it was put that way for a reason. And, the way God works in all of our lives is different. But he gave me a better outlook on things. And I've even had a few people tell me like, man, since you've been back, you've been more calm and collective. You've been more engaging, you know, all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, I got a little different view, a more, you know, I don't know, happy view or a more satisfied view. I don't know the best word to describe it, but
oh, that's good.
You know, and it's just been awesome to be back. Outside of technology issues, I love our IT department, but that's a whole nother issue.
Yeah.
But I mean, when it all come down to it, it was the culture of the place.
Yeah.
It was toxic. I went 3 weeks without seeing my kids except on the weekends, and you know, they're just downstairs. I was getting up, going in before they were awake, and by the time I got home, they were already asleep in bed. Now, I know a lot of people do that for their jobs, and I give kudos to them for putting in the hard work and effort, but it's like, it just wasn't worth the time or the money at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quality
anyway,
over quantity at that point.
Yeah. Sorry for the long, drawn-out story
good.
there.
No, I think it sets I think it's something listeners need to hear because it sets the table because...
But there are probably, Adam, I didn't mean to cut you. There are probably people that have been exactly through that same storm, that same story. And, you know, sometimes you have, to your point, the grass isn't always greener on the side. Whether, I mean, being an entrepreneur, there's no different for an entrepreneur as it is an employee. It's just a different type of thing, right?
Right.
We all go through things, and we all realize that, you know what? Maybe the Lord has something better on the other side for me. And if it's going back to what I would say is normalcy, great. Maybe it's my kids. Maybe it's my wife. Maybe it's my church. Maybe it's my, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And so it's just interesting to hear because you never know what the impact, as we're going to talk about in a few, that you're going to make on someone's life or someone's made on your life that wanted to have you come back to the current role. And I mean, just thank the Lord the role was still open, you know?
Oh, yeah. You know,
that's a good thing.
That was all his timing on all of that. And, you know, I have no ill will towards that company that I left. There's a couple people there that I don't have the best opinion on, but that's my own, and I won't voice that to anybody else. But I met a lot of amazing people at that company. Yeah. And since I've been back, like I've been back now for, what are we in now? We're in August now.
It feels like a while.
I came back in early April or late March. So it's like, I've been back for a few months now, and it's like I never left, like it never
hit the ground running.
But but you know, I still stay in touch. Like I actually met one of the guys last week for lunch. You know, we just met and had lunch, and I let him, you know, I think he needed to decompress a little bit. I just let him talk and you know, that kind of thing. So
see, that could be a reason for the connection. Maybe you're helping him through something.
Yeah.
It very well could be. And so I'm glad to be back. I'm honored to be your first guest on the Higher Up. And there's one thing I will say before we move forward. Benji, how in the world could you not know who 11 is from Stranger Things?
Okay, so let me set the record straight. Yes. I have never watched the show, and I'm just gonna say this. Okay, and look, people have their own opinions about different shows. And
nobody has an opinion. It's just what actually happened.
There are, like, my wife and our oldest have watched this show. I choose not to watch it, and the only reason I don't, I know this is going to sound
scared of the dark.
Maybe.
Okay.
The only reason I don't is because I choose not to. I was taught at an early age that you just don't let stuff, even though it's not real.
Right.
Let that stuff.
It isn't like the underside world because it's almost like a heaven and hell type thing.
Okay.
And that's where I come from. And it's not I don't like it. It's not I don't. So anyway, I'm standing there. Just a quick story. I may have told this a few episodes ago, but we're standing there, and Sarah had walked across the street at convention and was standing there looking for me. I was looking for her, and me and three other guys were standing there talking to another owner.
Okay.
And this girl comes up and taps me on the shoulder, had a red like sweatshirt on, put it over her head, and she taps me. She said,
Do the accent.
I don't know if I can. It was some kind of English, British, whatever. She says, I was 11 on Stranger Things or so. And I'm like, what?
It's a mix between Borat and Forrest Gump.
And I look over at another guy and I said, what did you say? And then all I heard was 11 Stranger Things. I thought she was talking about her age. I had no clue that was her name. So anyway, that's exactly what happened. That is exactly what happened. I had three other witnesses standing there with me.
I will give you this, okay? I'm going to say it so our listeners can hear it, okay? In that same episode, you talked about the Ric Flair, and I still didn't believe you. The cigar parlor.
He was there.
The cigar parlor that we went and visited.
Yeah.
I followed them on Instagram. They posted a video the other day of him in the humidor picking out a cigar, doing his Ric Flair. So I'll give you that. So Ric Flair was there. Doesn't mean 11 was there.
Now, here's the thing. Ric Flair, he was at our hotel.
Okay, so you saw him too.
I saw him too. And one of our franchises, they shot a selfie with him out there.
I'll believe you over Brady and Eric any day. So tell him I said that.
You know, he was there, and there were other stories that happened. And if anybody is a wrestling fan that they know, which I learned that apparently Tampa is like a mini Mecca for the wrestling community. So, you know,
I would have noticed him straight up if I seen. I'd have gone fan crazy. I mean, I grew up with Ric Flair.
Oh, exactly.
Millie Bobby Brown was not there. Okay,
I'm just telling you, they showed a picture of her on Google to me, and I was like, that looks like the girl. And then another guy that was there with me goes, that was the girl. He said, I'm telling you that was her.
They've got this really cool thing called celebrity impersonators. Like Michael Jackson and Elvis are still alive if you walk down some streets, Benji.
I mean, it's true. It's true. I mean,
by the way, his other source.
You really don't know.
His other source. I just want to throw this out here, Roy, for our listeners. Yeah. His two sources that were there that saw it. His wife was conveniently across the street.
Okay? She saw the girl.
But you're talking about the super fan of Stranger Things was across the street.
She was across the street. But it was Brady, which I don't even think the guy owns a TV because he's a hustler. He's always working. And then Eric, who does nothing but basically lift weights from the moment he gets up till he's at work till he goes back to bed. So the two people that don't watch TV really at all are his sources.
Yeah.
Anyways,
I couldn't tell you if it was her or not. I have never seen an episode. I'm just telling you what she said.
I just hope this is a nice running joke for our listeners because
it is.
Ridiculous.
It is. And I think, Benji needs to get a bunch of Stranger Thing dolls and toys for Christmas and his birthday this year.
I'm going to start buying him random
that
11 toys.
He knows who 11 is. He's going to say, hey, guys, I'm at 12. I'm at 12.
It's like we went to
Sarah's
grandma's house down by the lake a few weeks ago, and she had this antique armoire in the corners, all glass.
Oh, please don't tell me it has like porcelain dolls in it.
There was old porcelain dolls in there. She goes, Mackenzie, talking about my youngest daughter, she said, Mackenzie, you can have two. And I said, no. They ain't coming to our house. No.
I'll give you that one.
Them things will start talking to you.
Yes. Antique creepy dolls. I got to tell a quick story.
It ain't coming home.
Antique creepy doll, real quick. My mom found one in her closet. Okay. She found it. It was creepy. Yeah. It was still in the box. Somebody had given it to her, creeped her out. She kept it to be nice, put it in a box in the closet. We were helping them go through some stuff. My wife found it. She goes, hey, I can sell this on Facebook Marketplace. All right. She did. She put some money on it. Somebody bought it. Somebody that works at HQ bought it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they bought it for the sole reason
to put it in your office,
to put it in their house to scare her husband.
So
she periodically says she will move the doll around the house without telling him.
Oh my gosh.
No, thank you.
And she may be somebody of a name that you know at HQ.
Well, I guarantee it's Nikki Britt. There's no question about it.
Kim.
Maybe somebody that oversees Kim.
Dang. Are they doing it to Chad?
No, it was
Chris
Allison.
Layfield.
Oh, Allison.
Gosh.
Allison said she bought it so she will scare Chad and move it throughout the house. And
awesome.
This was I think this was before the baby was born too. So like when they were getting the nursery ready, she would say, "Oh no, nursery corner."
Oh man,
yeah.
And
Anyway, sorry, scary doll
that's
story.
Awesome.
Over.
But no,
it's
cool. It's cool to hear your. I won't say negative culture impact, but I mean that's what it sounds like.
But think about it. Think about where you are, and I got something I want to share with you guys in a minute. But think about it. I mean, basically, that negative culture led you back to where you were, And I think it's important what Benji talks about with you is there's people right now that are listening that could either be one, looking to change companies with where they are, and this hopefully be like, hey, really look into before you do it. Or two, maybe they have changed or haven't. They're just in a company right now that has a bad culture and they're just dealing with it. And so the tough part is I think someone, until they experience what good culture is, they don't realize what it was. And you said the same thing. Like when you came back, you're like, man, the grass isn't greener on the other side. Like and not that that's why you were looking to leave. Like you had, they were looking to give you a promotion and do some, some other opportunities and some things. You're like, man, this will be good for my resume. This will be good for me to build good learning experience. So either way, there's people that are in that position. And I think it shows you the power of culture and what it can do. And
I think if anybody is in that situation currently, any advice that I would give, and again, I'm no expert, I've just life experience here. Take a step back and look, because there's the old saying, especially for men, there's stuff right in front of our faces that we don't see. My wife, where's the ketchup bottle in the fridge? She'll walk up and hand it to me. It's like I just didn't see it. But if you take a step back and maybe even look at it through different lenses too, because you've got blinders on. You're so focused on maybe the negative events that have been happening, or the lack of any kind of forward momentum that you have been hoping for, or something like that. Just to take a step back and to reevaluate the culture. Yeah. Because, like I said, 14 years for me at one place. 14 years at one place for anybody these days is amazing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm not trying to pat myself on the back here. It's just, you think about the world today, but a little bit more forethought and a little bit more consideration before any hasty decisions to be made, because, culture is one thing that can be changed. You can make an influence in culture to make it better or push it in the more positive direction.
Well, let me ask you about this. So we talked about this a little bit when we were getting the episode kicked off, Benji, but literally I saw it, like it got posted last night, and I just saw it was on Sports Sports Illustrated's Instagram page, and it was a quote from Dion Sanders. And I did think this is great because, obviously the guy has done so much. He changed so much at Jacksonville State, and then moving to Colorado has already been influential. I think we talked about it in an episode.
Sold out the spring game.
Sold out. They sold. I think it was literally they made more in that one game than the past 15 years.
Oh yeah,
for a spring game. And I think spring games are cheap, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It would be easy to take your kids and say, hey, let's go to spring games. Couple, now here in Alabama or Auburn, I'm not going to a spring game because it's treated like a game. But for them,
y'all have football
that's a big
in Alabama?
deal. So Roll Tide.
Sorry, War Eagle.
But so here's a quote. Here it is. Yep. He was on. It says this. I'm going to read straight to this. It says, I don't care about culture. I don't even care if they like each other. I want to win. It says basically the caption for it was, some coaches would zero in on culture as a means to kickstarting a turnaround. Dion Sanders is not some coaches. So thoughts, go. I want to hear this.
I'll tell you this. I understand what he's trying to say. And I think that he's trying to redefine. He even said, I heard his speech when he first got there in the team room. He said, I'll go ahead and say it right now. A lot of you will not be on this team come fall practice.
That's
I'm
just
true. Telling you.
Oh, yeah.
Because he said, you don't have a good work ethic. You don't have a good diet. You don't have a good – he went through all the list. And it's true. Most of those – it was probably within the next week or two, enter the transfer portal. Because they realized, I'm not even going to make it with this coach. He's going to probably have really high expectations. Colorado back in the 90s, football, they were on cloud nine. Won a national championship. They really had it dialed in. And then they've fallen off the bandwagon just because. Now, it may be because it's the Pac-12. Who knows? But I don't even know what conference they're in now. Maybe they're in the Big Six or something. But the thing about Dion Sanders is he's going to bring a winning tradition wherever he goes. He wants to win. He wants to win. He did it at the Cowboys. Well, back up. He did it at Florida State. He did it at the Cowboys. He did it with the Braves. He did it everywhere he went. And if he comes to Colorado And he's really saying that I don't care about the culture. I think what he's trying to get people to understand, he does care about the culture. It's just his way of doing it. He's just not calling it the culture.
I was going to say, plot twist is the culture not caring about the culture.
I think it's not caring about the existing culture.
Correct.
Because the existing culture has them where they are today.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you bring in prime time. All right. You bring in prime time with a big stick. He's going to stir the pot, which is what he's done with the culture of Colorado. And now he's setting the foundation to build the culture, a winning culture for them. That's the same thing he did, was it Jackson State?
Jackson State, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's the reason that he got the attention that he got. I mean, he is prime time, let's be honest. But for what he did there, I mean, Colorado needed that. They needed a change in their culture to see positive momentum. I mean, you're right, Adam. You joked a second ago. It's not pack 3. It's pack your bags and leave. Yeah. That's why they're bringing them in.
They're all leaving.
It's good.
Exactly.
They're all leaving. But I mean, I do think part of what he's doing is like you said, I love the way you put it. Like he's going to say things those ways because what bleeds leads. He's making waves, which he's in the news. He's staying consistent in the news. But I think that's also part of what he's teaching these guys is making sure the focus remains on you. But he also, I feel like he does have a good culture with what he does. Like there was a post where he was talking about how they were going to speak to the women on the team. He was like, you will not say, hey, babe, chick, whatever. You will address them by their name and the degree they've earned. Like if they're a doctor, you're a doctor. If you're a trainer, you're going to call them a trainer because they work for that and you're going to do it. So I think too, while he's saying those things, he is building a culture. That's why jokingly, yes, his culture is his culture not having a culture. But what it is that he is showing how they are going to do things and that they're not going to be mediocre. And that's really what the culture had been, was just exist. Basically.
He does have a personal culture too. And I say that because several years ago, I'm talking like 12 years ago, we were able to get Dion at one of our SERVPRO events. And one of the requirements was he needed personal security for the event. And I'm a big guy.
Please tell me you were the bouncer.
Please. Did you get some money?
I was Dion's second bodyguard for the night.
Yes.
And
do you have a picture that we could show for viewers? Please tell me you have a picture.
I will say this. Yes, there is a picture of me on stage with Dion at the event. I was in this. And I'll find it. I was in a brown suit. I remember this.
We will post this on our Instagram. I need this.
It's going to take me a while to find it because computers and backup hard drives, I'll have to look for it. But the night that we were doing it, I was asked to go to Dion's hotel room, and he took me upstairs, and I met one of his own personal protection individuals.
Was he bigger than you?
We were about the same size.
Let's say security guard like 8 feet tall.
Well, he might have been 8 feet tall, but he was also 8 feet wide. So, I mean, he was a big guy, okay? I know I'm a big guy, but as far as his shoulders go, I was like a middle schooler. So, we get in the room, and of course, I'm meeting Dion, Mr. Sanders, nice guy. And we sat down, we talked. He said, look, I've got just very specific amount of rules here. Nobody comes on the stage with any alcohol in their hands. One person at a time. If anybody is disrespectful to anybody in line while trying to get on stage, especially the ladies, you have full authority to pull them out and escort them away.
How about that?
And then the final thing is, I don't know if you've seen this. Have you ever seen where like Keanu Reeves, when he gets his pictures made with any of his fans, especially his female fans, he kind of always shows his hands kind of behind them, where his hands, you know, he's not touching them.
I love him. Just watched John Wick 4 last night.
I haven't seen it yet. Don't spoil anything. But like Dion did similar things to that on stage with people.
Yeah.
And so he was like, as long as you can follow these, it was maybe 5 rules. He said, follow these 5 rules. He said, we'll be good for the night. And sure enough, like, I think we had him for a total of 3 hours for the event. He did like an hour of autographs, hour of photos, and then he was on stage doing like a motivational talk kind of thing.
That's cool.
But his personal culture defined the night on how it went.
That's a great way to put that.
And I think that's exactly what he's doing there.
Did you know impact that Dion Sanders had Did you guys know that he brought the tomahawk chop to the Atlanta Braves from Florida?
No
I
way.
did not know that.
No way.
So he did. Florida State had the doom.
Right.
Yeah.
He brought that to the Braves. They never did that before he got to play at the Braves.
I did not know
no
that.
Way.
Yep. The tomahawk
So
chop.
When he was there, that had to be Fulton County Stadium when he was there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
He was.
So I was going to say, he was not there during Turner Field days. Because I think when Turner Field was built, didn't he play for the Reds too?
He did.
Because I want to say I was at a Reds game, and he was there playing that game. And I was like, this is cool. I've seen Dion play a different sport outside of football.
Yeah. I just think you look at those. I mean, even though he's saying that, he's creating that culture. And that's something that we've been trying to instill in our team really as of lately. I mean, like, that's been a huge selling point for me. I think Brady regrets bringing a creative into several projects that we're working on right now. Because I try to explain it's not just putting things on paper. It's how's it going to look? What are we going to do with it? And that's, we had that conversation the other day. It was me, him, and our director of HR, and we were talking through some projects. And he was just trying to bring me to the realization. He was like, hey, look, I know you want to do this. You want to do that. He's like, you are a culture guy. I get it. Okay, I get it. He was like, we've got to remember, we've got to build the culture, but we've got to make sure that it's something that people can buy into. And he was like, if you keep just not giving them a reason to buy into it, they're not going to.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was just talking about how important it is that we're building this culture for them. So that's what we talked about this past week, was what that impact was. And we showed a video of Benji's father when he passed away, and it was just a lot of people on our team didn't know Mr. Wilson. They hear us talk about him, and they hear us talk about the impact that he had, but that's all. They're hearing it. So that video, it was a great video that was produced.
Awesome video.
Yeah, by Mark and Bo at Thanks Squares Media. They did such a good job with it.
They did.
And there was so many. The reason that we wanted to show it was not for them. We were very careful. We're like, look, we're not trying to show you this. We're not trying to. Benji and Brady aren't trying to show you who their dad is and trying to show. What we want to show you is how many different people from all over are interviewed and are in this video.
Yeah.
Because of the impact that he had on the SERVPRO community. There's people lining up to say, hey, I want to say my piece on what he did for me and my business, especially as an entrepreneur. Every single owner in that business, the only reason they were in SERVPRO was because of him.
Yeah.
And so that was an impact that he had.
Absolutely.
And we do the same thing. We try to do the same thing with our team. There's so many people on our team that I feel like if they were any other company, they've worked in positions that didn't work out. In any other company, I'd be like, all right, we're going to cut you loose. We're done. What I've always loved about us is like, all right, so maybe that one didn't work out. Where's somewhere else on our team? Because you have experience, you have knowledge, you have value on our team. Okay, maybe that doesn't fit. Where's another position we can put you in and figure out what we can do? To me, that's so important too, because you're helping people find that value. And I can't think of it right now. Our director of large loss said at one time, what did your dad say when they hired Brad? Because it was hilarious, because you and Brady didn't want to hire Brad. And your dad always said it was, don't hire for the position, hire for the man. Is that right?
No, you don't train for, or you don't hire for the position. You train for attitude. If you can get someone that's got a good attitude on your team, you can bring them on. And he did. He had an impact on people. I mean, we said it best this last week at our big team meeting that you never know the impact that you're going to make on someone's life. And I think it was the same day or the day after we had one of our employees.
Same day.
Who actually, it was really cool. One of our employees, he was at a water damage at this folks' house. The mom was distraught. The son was, and again, I may have the story wrong, but I'm going to paraphrase, wanted to, fish or whatever, had some fishing tackle there. And so one of our employees goes to his truck, gets some fishing gear out, and just sits down on the sidewalk with the son and starts, helping him with his fishing gear and stuff like that. And the mom grabbed a picture and sent it to us. And it was like, that's the impact. What we do at SERVPRO, again, water damage is cleanup, fire damage is cleanup, but you can never replace that with the impact that you make on someone's life. Yeah, they'll remember the water damage, but they're going to remember so much more him helping her son with his fishing tackle in a bad situation. That's the kind of impact that you want to have on people.
It's like a restoration of faith in human culture.
Yes, that's such a good way to put it, because we talked about it in our morning meeting on Friday, and so every Friday we talk about it. We talk about reviews. We kind of go over things with them because we want to celebrate them. We want to celebrate the work they're doing. We want to celebrate what they're accomplishing in the field, and we talked about it. And it was funny. The production tech, his name's Kevin. You know, I texted the night before. I was like, bro, like, I'm bringing this up tomorrow. I said, look, I got teary-eyed when I read it. I said, look, it was very minimal, but it's such a big deal. And I told him, I was like, I'm gonna try my best not to end up getting teary-eyed while I'm talking to y'all about it. But I was like, man, you don't know what's going on in that kid's life. I said, you know, like, kids at home, you don't know what's going on. Like, does he have a good home life? Does he not? Like, and obviously he does. Like, what's funny is I realized who the mom was. I knew the mom, like the customer. Yeah. When I saw who it was, I actually worked with her for many years at the YMCA. And so I messaged her and I was like, hey, I don't know if you remember me. I said, I said, hey, I would love to use this. And she's like, no, please. They were amazing. She's like, yeah. She said, I still follow you. I see what you're doing. She's like, you guys were amazing. And what's even cooler about it is another restoration company had come in and couldn't handle the job. That's how it came to us. So you want to talk about a godsend. It ended up being our old GM that used to work for us. Now he has his own construction business, being his own entrepreneur. Okay. And he went in to do some recon. He's like, oh, this ain't right. Like, this isn't done right. Like, this isn't dried. Like, so he's like, you should call SERVPRO. I promise you they'll get you fixed. Called him or had him call us, and we went out there. And so just think about all these different pieces that fell into place for this one little story, and we shared it, and it was just a cool, like, I even sent it into HQ, like, hey, we'd love it. Like, this was just a really cool story for us to kind of see, because we preached culture. It was just nice to see that they grabbed onto it, and they took it and they ran with it, because it literally was the day of.
It's those kind of stories and those engagements and encounters, man. The people that engage it and do it firsthand, and then, like, all of us that hear it on the second hand, like, you get chills. Yeah. You get the teary eyes, that kind of thing. And it's hard to describe, but it's a really good feeling.
Yeah. Well, we try really hard to let people know, especially with we build that culture with them. We tell them that, like, every time we meet with them Friday, like, guys, you're not just a production tech. You're not just a water mitigation technician, fire restorator, fire technician. You have an opportunity to make an impact on these people. Like, we don't just have to be a service that comes in and cleans up. We could be somebody that makes an impact on it. But a lot of that comes from the culture that has been built into us and instilled to help that. And then the big thing on that for me is the better the culture is, the more that you're bought into things. Like, I joke with Benji all the time. I'm like, that time I tried to branch out and go work somewhere else probably was stupid. And I'm like, because there's no
feeling.
And I'm like, you're not going to find, for me at least, a better culture. And honestly, the only reason I even had the opportunity to interview at that other position was because of the culture that we had at SERVPRO that had put me in a position to do those things.
Right.
So culture obviously is a huge thing.
So here's
what we're doing.
Question. I mean, I know I'm the guest. Maybe I shouldn't be asking questions.
No, ask away. Hit it.
No, both you guys have said it a couple times in this talk is building the culture. Building the culture. Mm-hmm. What do you think are some of the characteristics required to build a good culture?
Benji, you hit that from the owner standpoint, and I'll talk about it from, like, what it's like to be one of y'all's team.
I think the big thing is, from a culture standpoint, we always want to build people up. We want to give them, instill in them they can do anything bigger than they could have ever dreamed and imagined. We're not talking about monetarily. Those things come, I'll never forget, and just to give you a quick story, when my dad passed, he had always tried to get me to read books. And I never read books. By the way, I still don't read that many books. I just don't. I listen to worship music. I listen to any kind of music. That's kind of my downtime chill. And But I was cleaning out his office when he passed, and there was this book in there. It was called The 5 Great Characteristics of a Great Leader. And the book was about this thick, the words were about that big, and it made it very easy to read. And not to get into the details of it, but the 5th one was to thank people. Just simply thank people. I mean, think about this. You go to Disney World. What do? Thank you for being here. Thank you for being on the ride. You go to Chick-fil-A. My pleasure. You got Starbucks. Thank you for order. Whatever. It's simple little tasks. You don't get that at McDonald's.
No.
Yeah.
You don't get that at Wendy's. You know. So I think from a
They
culture,
try to emulate it.
Yeah.
Sometimes
they try, but it takes if you don't
it can't
get
just
the
be one
employees-
person trying to do it. Yeah.
If you don't get the employees to buy into the concept and the culture, they're not going to do it. They're just doing it out of just whatever, you know, they're having a bad day or whatever the case may be. So our culture is we want to instill in our people that they can do bigger and better things they could ever dream and imagine. And what it's going to take to get them there is to highlight them, praise them, take care of them in times of need. Minister to them when they have needs. You know, maybe some of you business owners are listening out there right now that maybe you don't have that trait. We Brady and I don't. We have a company chaplain that does that on their behalf. So things like that you can give them extra tools and benefits, I think are what builds the culture.
I think from an employee standpoint, you know, I feel like Benji and Brady, they emulate that a lot through what they're doing. They're building the culture. They're doing those things. It's funny because we've seen kind of a change in our company. Benji's moved into a more of a visionary role. The one who was always kind of behind the scenes and hidden is now the one that's in front. So like Brady's always in front of everything now.
Oh yeah.
We've seen a culture shift.
Okay.
And it's fun. Like our company has more access to Brady than ever before. And that's something that we've talked about. So one thing I feel like from that is I brought up in a meeting as like, I'm going to be super philosophical here. When I told Brady we were meeting, I said, I read a quote, and I think I shared this with Benji. I was like, I read a quote, and I was like, because we have a goal as a team. I'm like, okay, how do we get our team to buy into that? What happens when we get there? What happens when we, you know, like, what is the benefit of making the goal for our team, you know? But I read a quote that said, don't just teach someone how to build a boat, teach them to yearn and vast for the open sea. Very similar to the, you know, don't give someone a fish, teach them to fish, you know, you feed them for life. But the whole point was, okay, I told him, I was like, we've got to build a culture that we're not just, we don't want people just thinking like, hey, I have a job. Okay. That I don't want people to ever feel that way, because I feel like if you're just this is for me. If I feel like I have a job, then I'm not doing what I enjoy. And I'm obviously I'm living the same thing. I'm getting up in the morning, going to work, coming home. And for me, that's not what I want. Like, I want something where I feel like I'm making a difference. So I was like, we've got to figure out a way to have people want to achieve the goal. Like, give them a reason to want to be out on the sea, not just like, hey, I built a boat. All right, next, on to the next one. No, give them a reason to want to, like, say, all right, we built it. Let's go.
Right.
All right, let's get out there. And so I feel like we do experience that a lot, and that's why we do see a lot of the teams that we have. But I mean, if you look at their team, there's some people in there that's got 15, 20, 25 years, and that's not just by happy accident.
Right.
To me, that's not someone just enjoying their, you know, or just someone that's getting up and going to work. Human nature, we're not going to want to do the same thing every day and day that's mundane, no change. Like there's got to be a reason, which is that culture being built. And so I feel like we see that through those things. And that was my biggest thing. It's like, all right, have me yearn for it. Like, I want to be on this team. Like, I want to be people to see that. Like, I want other people to be like, man, I want to be on Team Wilson. Like, I want to be a part of that. But that's the culture I feel like we've built. Yeah. That people are wanting that.
A culture with a want. I like that.
I'm gonna bring that up with Brady next meeting and tell him I thought about that. A culture with a want. And then he's gonna say, "Hey, I got an email from Roy, and he said that this was his idea."
No, he's gonna say some guy named Roy. Never heard of him before. No. But
yeah, I mean, that's kind of where it was, because I'm for me, I just don't want to get up every morning and just go. I don't want to do the same thing every day. I mean, yes, I do the same thing every day, but it's different every day. But it's different because we've built that culture and that family too. I think a big part of that too is not just culture, but building, or part of your culture is building a family. Yeah. I mean, I can text these guys and talk to them, and
that's what I had at SERVPRO, was a family. I still have that family to this day. And when I went to that other company, I can tell you I had 2 pictures on my desk. I had my family, my wife and my kids, and I had the picture of our group that they took when they gave me a nice going away dinner that night. And we took a group picture, and those were the 2 pictures that I had on my desk the entire time I was at that other company. And I found myself on those late nights while I'm dealing with people, looking at that picture going, I miss my family. I miss that work family. And it made me think about the culture, the attitudes, the want, the hearts, everything that was in it. And that was something I tried my best to emulate at that other company. Was I was trying to build that culture in our department, because I can tell you the company culture there wasn't where I hoped it would have been. But I did have that with our team, was we are going to do our part to raise it up a level.
Yeah.
And I was very proud of the group of people because they were doing that.
Yeah.
And, you hear people say, oh, I really want them to, they're not going to be a fit in our company culture. And it's like, how can you determine that so quickly off of an interview? Like if it's your first interview kind of thing, I think it's got to do with reading people. I mean, that's part of it, because let's be honest, you get around certain people and they give you the heebie-jeebies, the creep factor. Like, you know what, you offered me ice cream and puppies out of the back of your van. No, not so much, But I mean, you showed sincerity, you showed genuine concern, you showed empathy. You just get those feelings and those characteristics about people.
Yeah.
And that's how you can change a culture, I think.
Yeah.
Solid.
Well, there's ownership in culture too. That's the biggest thing, is that there's so much, like everything we do. So when we had this conversation, and hopefully I'm not sharing more than Brady wants me to share, but we had this conversation the other day about culture, and we're talking more, and he brought up a good point, and I felt bad because I felt like I was the one that was the driving factor. I'm like, I kept pushing, like, Benji and Brady are the culture. Like, you guys are the culture. Like, you guys start the culture. You're our ownership. And we met the other day, and he was like, at what point do we need to basically realize we aren't the only ones building the culture? Like, we aren't the culture. And it was funny because Leo and we've kind of been on the same page with this, like, because we're redoing our handbook, and we're wanting culture to be kind of the first thing that's in there. I mean, it's a huge project. And so we both, like, I had no answer. Like, I'll be honest with you, like, he and I both were like, I guess I hadn't thought about it that way. He was like, I need y'all to be the culture. Like, because he said, and it hit me when we sat there, he said, if y'all are being the culture, then I've done my job. I've done what I'm supposed to do.
Pass it down to the team. Yep.
Absolutely.
It's coming up from the top and trickling down. And so he was like, I need you guys to be our culture ambassadors and start, because he said, once you all do it, then those that you interact with are going to do it, and they're going to do it, and they're going to do it. And I mean, again, we saw that with our production team the other day. I mean, it was the first time we had done this type of meeting. We completely changed what we were doing, like how we presented to the team.
Yeah. And
we got to watch them basically take what they heard that morning and put it into effect. And for all I know, Kevin didn't even think about it, because it's just, in all honesty, it's who he is. That's just the person he is. And so he probably didn't, but we got to bring that up in the meeting. I said, look, this was a big deal because you're making such an impact. So it was just kind of cool. It was something he said and stuck with me. He was like, if you're building the culture, then I've done my job.
That's cool.
So good. Very cool. So good.
So, but It's good stuff. I literally could sit and talk about culture forever. Culture and branding. Those are my two things. So,
Roy, I was going to tell you, thank you, man, for joining us. It's an honor and a privilege to serve alongside of you. Even though I know we don't work at the same location, we're still part of the same family. Very blessed to have you back in the SERVPRO world, man.
I'm just waiting on him to invite us, like he invites other people to HQ and we can hang out. But that's cool.
Benji, I told you have an open invitation.
Yeah,
anytime you
I'll
want to
be
come.
there actually in a few weeks.
Okay.
Never even eaten in the cafeteria.
Wait, are we talking about your high school days or now?
I mean, you'll have a high cafeteria at corporate. That's kind of cool.
Oh yeah,
right?
Yeah. No, it's awesome. Yeah,
It's straight cafeteria.
No, I am very grateful for you guys. I am very humbled and honored that y'all asked me to be the first guest for Higher Up, and it's been an absolute privilege and honor. Anytime I can talk with you guys, I mean, it's a good day, and I always look forward to seeing you, Benji, at convention. Adam, yeah, I love you too, man.
Thanks, man. Just know, hey, I really appreciate you being our first guest guinea pig. Now we know what to do when the new other guests come in.
This guy's not coming back ever again. Next time we mute the mic. That's what he's saying.
No, you did good, man. I think it's fun and
you did good, man. Translation, you didn't suck.
You did no.
Thanks, Adam. I appreciate it.
Man, not at all. You did great. Look, I'm always proud of you. Like you're funny. You're a great individual. I'm just totally kidding.
I like it.
Wow. And
I'm not kidding about what I'm saying. I'm like being goofy the way I put. Okay, I'm digging a hole. My wife always says, "Land the plane, land the plane."
No, you just went nosedive into a very shallow lake.
Look, man, we appreciate you coming on and hanging out. I know you're taking away from family time to do this. Good. I know that's big for you. I know you got a lot going on. We're excited for everything you have going on this year. You're starting to work on the First Responder Bowl again. I know you sent your first email out the other day.
Super excited. And listeners, December 26th, check out ESPN, the First Responder Bowl.
Yes.
Last year we had a great game, great turnout. Mm-hmm. This year, I'm hoping that college football doesn't disappoint at all. I mean, I want it to be like the best season ever, but, like you said, all the shakeups with all the different leagues and everything, the Pac-2 or 1 by the time this podcast is over.
Get us some good teams, Roy. Like, I know you're over
I
this.
wish I could
You're the one who gets
control
to choose,
the
right?
teams. I really wish.
Like you actually get to call ESPN and say, "Hey, I want this team and this team," right? That's what from what I've been told. Like you basically get to tell people.
Matter of fact, I did have a meeting with ESPN this past Wednesday, and I got on the horn. And I was like, "Guys, we got to have good teams. We do." And you know what they said? They said, "Done. Alabama and Auburn will not be there this year. Instead, we're going to put Middle Tennessee State University in there." And just, go Blue Raiders.
And Colorado.
You know what?
Dude, that would be hilarious.
We got prime time at that bowl game.
You have achieved your goal. That would be a big impact, Roy.
I'll go back down to the sidelines. Hey, do you remember the time I did security for you?
You need to. Hey, man. Remember when I was security for you? I was about to say, if you get prime time, you have to record that.
Funny little tidbit at the end of it, and I probably shouldn't say this, but at the end of it, his security guy came over and, was like, "Hey, man, thank you so much. You did a great job." And he was like, "So how many years you been doing PP?"
Oh.
And I'm sitting there in my mind going, PP, personal protection. Oh, about I said about 3 or 4 years on and off, nothing really full-time on anything.
About 3 or 4 minutes.
He handed me his business card and said, "The next time you're in Dallas, if you ever need any work, give me a call."
Oh, dang. Boy, look at you.
And
did you have your piece and everything, bro? Were you like...
No, I was just a fat guy in a little coat up on stage. I was Chris Farley impersonating up there. But
you're like, this is Chubby Eagle?
No,
this is Chubby
Eagle. Really? Chubby Eagle.
Hey, to all our listeners out there, thank you so much for subscribing and listening and joining. Share this podcast wherever you might go with your friends, family, neighbors, whatever, and go out there and live a higher up life.
Amen to that.
We'll see you guys later.
Thank you.
Hey, Benji and I want to take a moment and just thank you for listening to the Higher Up Podcast. We really hope you enjoyed today's episode and just learned some valuable insights to help improve your own life. Hey, if you found today's episode helpful, we would be grateful if you could take a moment and rate us 5 stars on Spotify. Or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, we just want to know what you think about the show. Either way, when you leave us a review, you're helping us grow our network and reach more people with our message. Remember, our mission is to empower you in every aspect of your life, and we're thankful for your support. We've got new episodes of the Higher Up Podcast dropping every other Thursday, so take a second and turn on notifications to stay in the loop. Make sure that you follow us on your favorite social media platforms to stay connected with our community. We just want to thank you again for listening, and we look forward to having you join us again on the Higher Up Podcast.